Merciless, horrifying, unthinkable. These are the words that come to mind when we encounter stories that defy our understanding of human cruelty. Today, we bring you a tale that will send shivers down your spine, a story so disturbing that it will haunt your thoughts long after the final frame. Imagine, if you will, a young 7-year-old boy whose innocence was shattered in the most unimaginable way. In the depths of this darkness, a child named Adrian Jones lived a life that can only be described as a descent into a living nightmare. Behind closed doors, a chilling and macabre world unfolded, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and unspeakable horrors. As we peer into the innocent eyes of Adrian, his bright smile concealing the horrors that awaited him, we are confronted with a heartbreaking truth. How did this young boy become a victim of such unfathomable cruelty? Who were the monsters that lurked in the shadows, preying on his vulnerability? Hi guys, and welcome back to Crimeco, where we break down some of the most gruesome true crime cases from all over the world, giving you the most up-to-date detailed information. If that sounds like something you are interested in, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to give this video a like. A like from you really helps the channel. Thank you. Now let's dive in. Adrian was born on April 4, 2005 in Kansas City, Missouri. He was the youngest child of Michael Jones and Heather Jones, who seemed like an ordinary couple to the outside world. However, behind closed doors, Adrian's life was filled with unimaginable suffering. His parents, particularly his stepmother Heather, subjected him to relentless abuse and neglect. Adrian endured physical torture, starvation, and extreme confinement, all while being deprived of basic care, love, and human kindness. From an early age, Adrian experienced a childhood marked by neglect and abuse. His parents, trapped in a cycle of substance addiction and domestic turmoil, were unable to provide him with the love, care, and stability that every child deserves. Instead, his days were filled with fear, chaos, and the harsh realities of a broken home. As Adrian's world crumbled around him, he learned to navigate the harsh realities of his existence. The innocence of childhood slipped away, replaced by a constant state of uncertainty and despair. Basic needs went unmet, and his young mind struggled to comprehend the cruelty of the world he was forced to endure. School should have been a refuge for Adrian, a place where he could escape his troubled home life. However, even within those walls, he found little solace. The signs of neglect were evident as he arrived unkempt, hungry, and emotionally scared. Teachers and counselors recognized the distressing signs, yet their efforts to intervene often fell short. Adrian's story is not just one of personal tragedy, but also a chilling reflection of the systemic failures that allowed his suffering to persist. Social service agencies and authorities were aware of the family's struggles, yet their responses were often slow and insufficient. The cracks in the system allowed Adrian to slip through, leaving him vulnerable and exposed to unspeakable horrors. The extent of the abuse inflicted upon Adrian is truly shocking. It was later revealed that the Joneses regularly locked him in a filthy, dark, and windowless basement for extended periods. The room was riddled with filth, feces, and an unbearable stench, leaving Adrian in a constant state of torment. The abuse didn't stop at confinement. Adrian was also subjected to severe beatings, often with objects such as belts, cords, and even fists. His fragile body bore the physical scars of countless injuries inflicted upon him by those who were supposed to protect him. Throughout this ordeal, Adrian's pleas for help went unanswered. The few individuals who had any knowledge of his situation failed to intervene, allowing his suffering to persist unchecked. It is a chilling reminder of the tragedy that can unfold when signs of abuse are ignored or overlooked. Adrian's life was marked by utter despair and isolation. He was denied the chance to experience the joys of childhood, to receive an education, and to develop into the person he could have been. Instead, he endured a life of unimaginable torment at the hands of those who should have nurtured and cherished him. On the fateful day of November 25, 2015, Adrian Jones vanished without a trace, sparking a frantic search that would grip the community. The alarm was raised when concerned individuals realized that the 7-year-old boy was nowhere to be found. As law enforcement authorities became involved, they meticulously pieced together the events leading up to Adrian's disappearance. It was soon discovered that his stepmother, Heather Jones, had fabricated a chilling narrative, claiming that Adrian had been sent to live with his biological mother in another state. However, investigators soon unraveled the web of lies. It became evident that Adrian's disappearance was far from a voluntary arrangement. Suspicion mounted against his stepmother and the role she played in his vanishing act. As the investigation deepened, disturbing details about the Jones household emerged. The sordid truth began to unfold, revealing a harrowing tale of abuse, torture, and the most unimaginable horrors. Adrian's stepmother and father had systematically subjected him to unspeakable cruelty, eventually leading to his untimely demise. But what could have driven these individuals to commit such heinous acts? What dark forces were at play within the walls of their seemingly ordinary suburban home? The answers lie in the twisted psychology of those involved and the unsettling chain of events that unfolded. The investigation's breakthrough moment came when authorities discovered evidence pointing to the disposal of Adrian's remains. The sheer horror of what they uncovered shook even the most seasoned investigators to their core. Adrian's body had been grotesquely desecrated, and the Joneses had resorted to an unthinkable act. They had fed his remains to pigs. In the dark confines of the shower, where Adrian suffered starvation and torture, his life was extinguished. His body lay neglected for 2 weeks until a chilling decision was made. They procured pigs, using them to devour his remains, erasing all traces of his existence. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, igniting a sense of collective outrage and grief. The depths of Adrian's suffering were unfathomable, and the realization that his own family had been responsible for his torment sent waves of disbelief and horror rippling through the hearts of those who followed the case. But there were still many questions left unanswered. What drove the Joneses to commit such unspeakable acts? Were there any warning signs that could have prevented Adrian's tragic fate? And what would be the consequences for those responsible for this heinous crime? As the public grappled with the horrific details of Adrian Jones' case, many questions arose about how such a tragedy could occur undetected for so long. The search for answers led investigators to delve deeper into the circumstances surrounding Adrian's life and the individuals responsible for his care. Law enforcement agencies launched an extensive investigation, aiming to uncover the truth behind Adrian's abuse and the subsequent disposal of his remains. The search for evidence led them to multiple locations, including the Jones residence, where they meticulously combed through the house for any signs of wrongdoing. Forensic experts, armed with cutting-edge technology and expertise, meticulously examined the crime scene, collecting DNA samples, analyzing bloodstains, and documenting every piece of evidence. Their painstaking efforts aimed to reconstruct the sequence of events that had unfolded within those walls, providing crucial insights into the unimaginable horrors inflicted upon young Adrian. Simultaneously, investigators conducted interviews with family members, neighbors, and acquaintances to piece together a comprehensive timeline of events. Witnesses were questioned, and their testimonies provided critical information regarding the dynamics within the Jones household and the interactions between Adrian and his abusers. As the investigation progressed, disturbing details emerged, revealing a harrowing pattern of abuse and neglect. Adrian's physical and psychological suffering became painfully evident, painting a chilling portrait of the horrors he endured. The authorities soon identified Heather and Michael Jones, Adrian's stepmother and father, as the primary suspects in his abuse and subsequent death. The couple had subjected Adrian to a relentless cycle of physical abuse, starvation, and neglect, perpetrating unspeakable acts upon the innocent child. While the investigation initially focused on the abuse itself, it took an even more sinister turn when evidence emerged of the disposal of Adrian's remains. The Joneses' involvement in the grisly act of feeding his body to pigs shocked the community and further intensified the public's outrage and demand for justice. In the pursuit of truth and justice, the legal system swiftly moved to hold those responsible accountable for their heinous crimes. Heather and Michael Jones were arrested, charged with multiple counts, including child abuse, aggravated assault, and first-degree murder. As the case gained widespread media attention, public sentiment demanded that the justice system ensure the severest punishment for the perpetrators. The community rallied around Adrian, vowing to fight for his justice and honor his memory by advocating for stricter laws and reforms to protect vulnerable children. As the trial of Heather and Michael Jones began, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence meticulously gathered during the investigation, painting a vivid picture of the horrifying abuse inflicted upon Adrian Jones. Witnesses, including neighbors, family members, and professionals involved in Adrian's case, took the stand one by one, recounting the disturbing details of the young boy's life and the atrocities he endured. Their testimonies left the jury and spectators in a state of shock and disbelief, further fueling the desire for justice. Forensic experts presented scientific evidence, linking the bloodstains, DNA samples, and other physical evidence to the abuse and disposal of Adrian's remains. Their expertise helped establish a compelling case against the accused, leaving little room for doubt about their guilt. The emotional impact of the trial was palpable, as the prosecution played recordings of Adrian's anguished cries for help, captured on hidden cameras that had been discovered in the Jones residence. The haunting pleas echoed through the courtroom, leaving a lasting imprint on everyone present. In October 2016, the case took a significant turn when Heather and Michael Jones pleaded guilty to charges related to Adrian's death. Their guilty pleas spared the community from the anguish of a lengthy trial, but they did not absolve them of the responsibility for their heinous actions. In their defense, Heather and Michael Jones attempted to shift blame and downplay their roles in Adrian's abuse. They claimed ignorance, citing mental health issues, and challenging the credibility of the evidence presented against them. However, their attempts to manipulate the truth were met with skepticism by the jury and the public. The prosecution, bolstered by overwhelming evidence and the unwavering support of the community, delivered compelling closing arguments. They emphasized the heinous nature of the crimes committed against Adrian, urging the jury to deliver a verdict that reflected the magnitude of his suffering and the need for justice. After weeks of emotional testimonies, expert analysis, and intense deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as the jury foreperson stood and pronounced Heather and Michael Jones guilty on multiple counts, including first-degree murder, aggravated assault, and child abuse. The announcement of the verdict brought a mix of relief, sorrow, and a sense of justice to those who had followed Adrian's tragic story. The community, which had united in its outrage and demand for accountability, found solace in the knowledge that Adrian's voice had been heard and that his perpetrators would face the consequences of their actions. In the aftermath of the trial, the focus shifted to sentencing. The prosecution advocated for the harshest penalties, arguing that the severity of the crimes and the irreversible harm inflicted upon Adrian warranted nothing less. The defense, on the other hand, sought leniency, highlighting the defendant's troubled backgrounds and expressing remorse. With the guilty verdict delivered, all eyes turned to the courtroom once again as the sentencing phase began. The emotional weight of Adrian Jones' story lingered in the air as the community sought closure and a just punishment for the perpetrators. During the sentencing hearing, the courtroom was filled with family members, supporters, and concerned citizens who had followed the case from the beginning. Adrian's relatives, displaying strength in the face of unimaginable grief, addressed the court, sharing the impact of his loss on their lives and urging the judge to impose the harshest penalties possible. The prosecution, building upon the overwhelming evidence and the sheer brutality of the crimes committed, argued passionately for a sentence that reflected the severity of the abuse and murder of Adrian Jones. They stressed the need for justice not only for Adrian, but also as a deterrent against similar acts of cruelty. In contrast, the defense attorneys sought to present a narrative of remorse and rehabilitation. They highlighted the troubled backgrounds and difficult upbringing of Heather and Michael Jones, emphasizing the potential for change and the possibility of their rehabilitation within the correctional system. The sentencing hearing proved to be a poignant and emotionally charged event. As the judge listened to the arguments from both sides and weighed the evidence, the courtroom held its breath, yearning for a resolution that would bring a sense of justice and closure to Adrian's tragic story. After careful deliberation, the judge handed down the sentences. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions as the judge announced that both Michael and Heather Jones will be sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 25 years before they are eligible for parole. In addition to their life sentences, Heather Jones was also sentenced to 5 years and 8 months in prison for 2 counts of child abuse. These sentences will run consecutively, meaning that she will not be eligible for parole until she has served at least 30 years in prison. While acknowledging the potential for rehabilitation, the judge emphasized the need for accountability and the profound harm inflicted upon Adrian. As the sentencing phase came to an end, the community grappled with a range of emotions. There was a collective sigh of relief that justice had been served, but the scars of Adrian's tragic story would forever linger. The case served as a somber reminder of the importance of protecting the most vulnerable among us and the devastating consequences of failing to do so. As the years passed, the legacy of Adrian Jones continued to have a profound impact on child welfare and the pursuit of justice. His story served as a stark reminder of the importance of early intervention, community vigilance, and systemic reforms to protect vulnerable children. Adrian's tragic case prompted significant changes in child protection policies and practices. Legislators and child welfare organizations worked tirelessly to enact reforms that would prevent similar horrors from occurring again. New laws were passed to strengthen reporting mechanisms, improve child abuse investigations, and enhance support services for at-risk families. One of the lasting legacies of Adrian's story was the creation of Adrian's Law, named in his honor. This law mandated stricter background checks for individuals working with children, increased training for child protective services, and established a centralized database to track cases of suspected abuse across state lines. Adrian's Law also led to the development of specialized intervention programs targeting families at risk of child abuse. These programs aim to provide comprehensive support, including parenting education, mental health services, and access to community resources. By addressing the underlying factors contributing to abuse, such initiatives sought to break the cycle of violence and ensure the safety and well-being of children. The case also sparked nationwide awareness and advocacy campaigns. Adrian's face became a symbol of the fight against child abuse, plastered on billboards, flyers, and social media posts. Celebrities, public figures, and everyday citizens rallied together, using their platforms to raise awareness and funds for organizations dedicated to preventing child abuse. In schools and communities, educational programs were implemented to teach children about their rights, personal safety, and the importance of speaking up when they feel unsafe. Teachers and counselors received specialized training to recognize signs of abuse and provide support to children who may be experiencing maltreatment. Adrian's story also had a profound impact on law enforcement agencies. Police departments across the country reviewed and revised their protocols for handling child abuse cases. Training programs were implemented to ensure officers had the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively investigate allegations of abuse, gather evidence, and support victims through the legal process. The tragedy of Adrian Jones continues to serve as a haunting reminder of the work that remains to be done. Advocacy groups and individuals dedicated themselves to honoring his memory by fighting for ongoing improvements in child protection policies, funding for support services, and awareness campaigns. Despite the progress made, challenges persist. Child abuse remains a pervasive issue, and resources are still needed to address the underlying causes and support families in crisis. The legacy of Adrian Jones reminds us that the fight against child abuse is an ongoing battle, requiring constant vigilance, collaboration, and dedication. As we conclude this horrific case, we must remember that while Adrian's story is undeniably heartbreaking, it serves as a call to action. It is a reminder that we all have a responsibility to protect and nurture the well-being of children in our communities. By speaking up, raising awareness, and supporting initiatives that prioritize child safety, we can make a difference. Let Adrian's legacy be one of hope, resilience, and a catalyst for change. Together, we can build a society where no child suffers the horrors he endured. Join us in our commitment to creating a safer world for children, where their innocence is cherished, their voices are heard, and their futures are filled with love and opportunity. Thank you for joining us in this harrowing journey through the life and tragic death of Adrian Jones. Stay tuned for more compelling stories that shed light on the human condition and inspire us to strive for a better tomorrow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the latest true crime cases. We appreciate having you as part of our community as we explore the mysteries that continue to fascinate us all. Stay curious and remember, justice may stay hidden in the darkest corner. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.